I'm now joined by the former Vice-Chancellor of the Islamic University of Science and Technology in Kashmir, Siddique Wahid, and the well-known journalist Gohar Gilani. Professor Wahid, let me begin by asking you for your broad general view of today's all-party meeting as well as the earlier visit of the all-party delegation to Kashmir. Has it, in your eyes, created a sense of hope? Has it made some advance and created some opening? Or do you think things are more or less exactly where they were?
I think it would be premature to say that there was any sense of hope generated. I think that there was some sort of sense of anticipation, some sense of skepticism. But at the end of the day, I think there was a sort of unsurprised sort of feeling of disappointment that people have come away with both the events. And the question that I think Round is asked is, what is it that was going to happen, and nothing seems to have happened.
Would you agree with that, Gohar Gilani, that there's a sense of disappointment? People ask, nothing has happened?
Mr. Karan, first, a big sigh of relief that I'm on your channel and with you on your show, so this is a big relief. Yeah, coming to your question, I think there was, in the first place, there was no hope generated, as Mr. Siddique Wahid said, because there was no mandate to the all-parties delegation to talk to the people who are the stakeholders and who have problems, with New Delhi and who are asking for a political resolution of this Kashmir dispute. So there was a lot of confusion because BJP did not want to concede any ground to the Hurriyat, and they were very confused, and that's why Mehbooba Mufti sent a letter in capacity of a PDP chief, not as the chief minister. So those individual guys went to meet to the Hurriyat leaders. Some of them were in jail, some others in sub-jails, and others, Mr. Gilani was under house arrest. So there was a lot of confusion in the entire exercise. That's why there was no hope generated, and that's why we see no headway as well.
Now, Professor Wahid, let's come to some of the issues that were discussed at the all-party meeting. I know that they may not have featured in the same specific form in the statement that was issued, but they were widely discussed. And the first is the set of confidence-building measures such as lifting and stopping the use of pellet guns. The government was widely asked to stop using pellet guns, but what it's agreed to is to say that they will only be used in the rare of rare cases. For the rest of the time, what are called Pava shells will be used. Do you believe that is sufficient, or given that in the last few days there have been several injuries as a result of pellet guns, including at least one death, this is insufficient and the gun must be put away with altogether, full stop?
I think the gun must be put away together completely. Full stop. I think that these are sort of the signs of use of words such as the rarest of the rare. Who's going to define the rarest of the rare, Karan? I mean, I think that it's almost sort of very difficult to stomach terms like this. And on the other hand, when there's so much talk about violence, what violence are we talking about? I mean, in terms of, if it is the violence of the street, it is stones being thrown at the most that we're talking about. And on the other hand, you have state-issued weapons that have killed, that have maimed, and that have blinded. So, I mean, we must have a sense of proportion about what we're talking about here. And if the reluctance on the part of the government is anything to go by, we are very far away from talks.
The other key confidence-building measure, Mr. Gilani, is the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. If it were to be lifted from urban centres, and particularly Srinagar, as at least the left parties have demanded, would that send a welcome message that could make an impact on the protesters, or do you have your doubts?
Yeah, I have serious doubts about that as well, because, Mr. Karan, you have to understand that no one, not a single politician from either the BJP or the PDP has apologized to the people of Kashmir for 75 civilian killings, and now the injury list has gone beyond 10,000. We have 50 permanent injuries to the eyes with pellets. So there has been no remorse, no apology, except for one politician, Mr. Owaisi, who apologized to the people of Kashmir. So that's one thing I have my doubts about this, lifting of AFSCA, because the problem here in Kashmir is there's a perception that New Delhi continues to speak to the people of Kashmir in a colonial language, and also there is the power of there's argument of power, not the not any power in the argument in Delhi's argument here.
Let me bring you in on that particular point about ASPA, Siddique Wahid. What's your feeling? Would lifting ASPA send a welcome message to the protesters, or is it now too late to have any impact at all as far as the protesters are concerned and as far as changing the mood in the valley would go?
I think at the very most, even a lifting or some sort of doing away with part of AFSPA and partial sort of thing is at the very most what it is going to generate is some sort of sense of, okay, well, maybe Delhi has realized that they need to talk and that there needs to be some sort of negotiations about the future. I do not think that it will necessarily stop the protests. I do not think that it will. The only thing that will stop it is if we say that there is a dispute and we must sit down and we must talk about it.
All right, let's come then to the talks that are envisaged in that statement, because the statement that I have here with me says quite clearly that there will be a dialogue with all stakeholders. The problem, Professor Wahid, is that it doesn't identify and specify who are stakeholders. It doesn't name the Hurriyat specifically. What do you make of that?
I think it speaks to state ego, national ego, whatever you want to call it, and it's a curious thing. It's there. I think that in a scenario like this is that the actions are what speak, the best. And so therefore, do you mean the Hurriyat? Do you not mean the Hurriyat? You have an agenda of alliance that actually specifies that we will talk to the Hurriyat. And now you have the same government saying, sorry, we can't talk to the government. And then you have us being sort of batted between Delhi and Srinagar, the government in Delhi and the government in Srinagar. So I think that, so therefore, anything that will somehow show sincerity of action or sincerity of meaning on the part of Delhi is the way forward. At least, that's the minimal to be expected at this time. As far as, the AFSPA goes, again, it is, in a way, 2016 has almost transcended AFSPA. That is not what is being demanded on the streets today. We've got to understand that. We've got to accept
Absolutely.
that. Is that is not what is being demanded. What is being demanded is not descriptions about the sufferings of the people of Kashmir. This is something that tried and very old, now. What is being described, what is being demanded is not descriptions, but discussion about prescriptions.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a vast qualitative difference between the two.
Gohar Gilani, the second question is, what should the talks be about when they happen? Sitaram Yechuri has said that the talks need to be A, unconditional, and B, political. Would that be sufficient to get Hurriyat to participate? And secondly, would it be sufficient to give the people of Kashmir some sense of assurance that the talks will be meaningful? Can you answer both of them specifically?
Mr. Karan, I think, in individual capacity, I would welcome Sitaram Yechuri's latest statement. But I think, the problem is deeper, as Mr. Siddique Wahid also pointed out. The demand is not about human rights. It's not about lifting up AFSPA or, making certain statements which will make people happy. There's a political aspiration on the ground, and people are angry because large sections of the Indian media, especially in the electronic media, in their vitriolic and provocative commentary, are trying to demonize Kashmiris and delegitimize their legitimate political opinion. And that's what has angered Kashmir. I think what needs to be done is that if you want to talk to the mainstream, if that New Delhi wants to initiate a dialogue with the mainstream, then they will have to turn the clock backwards. They will have to talk about the greater autonomy. But if you have to talk to the Hurriyat, I think there should be no preconditions, and New Delhi must be willing to engage with the Hurriyat, as also agreed upon in the Agenda of Alliance document, which PDP calls a sacred document. I think the talks should be about the political future of Kashmir, because people want a political resolution, and that's what we hear, what we are hearing from last 60 days, from mornings until evenings, from mosque club speakers on the streets, that they want Azadi, and there's a political aspiration. So you have to address that. That's what's most important right now.
Siddique White, this is probably going to have to be my last question. Recently, just 2 days ago, Sitaram Yechuri speaking to this program, and then earlier, roughly 6 weeks ago, Mr. Chidambaram, the former Home Minister, again speaking to this program, both of them separately said that the government should be open to rolling back the status quo to 1947 wherever and whenever that is deemed necessary. If that were to be a formal part of the talks, if that were to be formally on the agenda, A, would it give confidence to Kashmiri people that these talks are meaningful, and B, would it ensure participation of people like Hurriyat?
I think that if, for example, rolling it back to 1947 is an admission that there is a dispute at hand and it must be negotiated or renegotiated, whatever the term that we want to use is, then I think it could be sufficient reason for the Hurriyat to come back to the table, or come to the table because they've never been there, I guess, to come to the table and start talking to the government in Delhi.
What about the opinion of the people of Kashmir? If they were to find that the talks include the possibility of rolling back to the status quo of 47, would that give the ordinary Kashmiri, particularly those who are out protesting, a sense of assurance that these talks are substantive and meaningful? A quick answer.
I think that some sort of display of a positive intent on the part of Delhi would give hope, which could be less or more than even what 1947 and so forth. I think that generally the people will feel confident and feel better about it, is my read. I mean, that may or may not be correct. But and the other thing is that getting to start talking to the people who do not agree with Delhi under unconditional talks, talks defined as being unconditional, and the political future of J&K, I think that will have a very salutary effect overall.
All right, Siddique White, let's leave it there. My thanks to you, and my thanks to Gohar Gilani for joining me. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.